Hello friends, welcome back to the channel. Welcome if you're new. Today's video is one that is very long overdue. If you can remember back to when we made these collage cards to eventually turn into amazing masterpieces. Yeah, this was supposed to be episode or part 2 of that series. And today what we're going to do is we're going to kind of go over some of my favorite ways to make collage fodder for these collage cards. I did go ahead and print out some of the tools I like to use, some of the substrates I like to use. This is just an idea builder. This is not the end all be all, but I wanted to print it out if you wanted to take a screenshot of this list for future reference, just to kind of make it easier for everybody. So today I'm going to run through all of my favorite things and maybe demo a few things. So I feel like it would be easiest if we start with some of the substrates that I like to build collage fodder on top of. So for our actual base substrates for these collage cards, we did end up using plain old index cards. Some of these are from a cereal box. What else? Yeah, I think that's what I just used. Cereal boxes, index cards, some different colored printer paper. So you can use pretty much anything. Oh, and this one is from an envelope. Some of these I like, some of them I don't like. That's just kind of how it goes. So I feel like let's start with the substrates of what I like to kind of doodle on and mark make on. The one that I think everybody has is scrap paper. It can be literally anything for scrap paper. So it could be maybe you're cutting down pieces of artwork and you have just scraps. I never throw these away because then I can make marks on them. I can use them for really small projects, or you can use them for swatching different colors. So I always keep any like cutoffs of paper. If you have any journals laying around that you're not using, just pull out a few pages. This is from a bullet journal that I've rarely ever used, and it's just sitting there. So I'm like, why not use the paper? Scrap printer paper. You know, I sometimes lay down a piece of paper to kind of catch anything while I'm working, and then eventually I use it for collage fodder. And then this is the printout of my CPR certification that has now expired. So I'm like, why throw the paper away? Let's just do some jelly prints on the back and use it for some art. So it can literally be any kind of scrap paper that you have. Some people think that I'm a little extreme and kind of a hoarder when it comes to paper, but when I see something, I just see so many possibilities. So don't limit yourself of what you could use, or quote unquote, like, what is the right thing to use when you do art. Anything goes. You can do anything you want. So don't let anybody tell you different. Another thing that I really, really like to use, and I have a huge stash of, and I want to do some videos on it, is packaging. I save so much packaging, and I like to make journals out of packaging, but you can also use them for collage. Like here is packaging from a notebook that I had bought in. Like I can use the inside of this to make marks on for collage. I just have like a little deli bag that I started to make marks on. paper bags. I love paper bags. As you can see, I used some Posca pens to start making marks. Deli paper from a bakery. And they have such cute bubble mailers now. Like, how cute is this shiny paper? Like, I might rip out the bubble wrap. But you can cut it out into different shapes and use in your art. And then this is just like packaging they use as like a box filler around products that I've bought in the past. Absolutely amazing. You could use all of that. And then this, maybe you could use it to make texture, like dip it in paint and then put it on the paper and make texture and a different kind of mark that you could then use for something else. What do we got next? Tissue paper. Absolutely one of my favorites also is tissue paper, because when you matte medium down pieces of tissue paper, it gets invisible. For example, these pink splotches here, those were done on tissue paper, and once I used the matte medium, you can't even really tell whether like I actually did that splotch on the card or if it's something that I matte medium down. Same with these little teardrops here. I did all of that on tissue paper. Can't think, it's too late in the day now. I wanted to do this video earlier, now I'm kind of tired, but we're gonna get through it. So yeah, tissue paper is amazing to do marks on. As you can see here, hopefully you can see it on the camera, I just used a white gel pen. I can then cut these out. That one's just a plain piece of white paper. And you're not limited to white. You can get patterned tissue paper. You can get colored tissue paper. The possibilities are endless. Here I just did some ink splotches that I can cut up and glue down, which will then eventually look like these, which I love those. I don't have an example of coffee filters, but I think it would be a cool idea to use maybe like watercolor or acrylic inks to dye the coffee filters and cut them up and glue them onto a piece. It's something I want to try. Another thing that I was thinking might be kind of cool, but it might be a little chunky, is I have this gigantic pile of paper towels that I just cannot bring myself to throw away because the colors are so beautiful. I'm wondering if you could use little pieces of this paper towel for your collage, like this little piece right here. I love this blue, I love this pink, I love the purple. I just think it's so pretty, and I can't bring myself to throw them away. Again, back to my hoarder problem, but that's a problem to solve on a different day. So I definitely think we should try together the coffee filters and the paper towel. That would be cool to see. Another thing that I do like to use is scrapbook paper or origami paper. I never throw away my scraps of scrapbook paper. Just for example, I did just grab like a little pack of scrapbook paper. Like maybe a little piece of these pink stripes would be nice somewhere. And there was all these little airplanes. And I really liked this blue with the squiggly line. You never know. Possibilities are everywhere. Magazine clippings. I use magazine cutouts for inspiration all the time. I don't necessarily use them in my collage work, but it is an option, like if you like that look. And you don't have to spend money on magazines. I do like text, so maybe I would cut out a shape within the text. Just a very small portion so nobody could like really recognize where it came from. But you can get free magazines, like in the front of like your grocery store. This one I got from my local public library. Like, it doesn't have to be expensive magazines. Another place I like to get magazines is the thrift store. I think of the thrift store down the street from me. They're like 15 cents a magazine. I don't feel bad about cutting up a 15-cent magazine. But if I went to Barnes & Noble and spent like $15 on a magazine, I might not want to cut it up for quite a while. So that's a good option. The next one is junk mail. This is another one of my favorites. I did cover up my address on a few things here. But as you can see, this is a well-loved receipt or inventory of what Blick sent me in the mail. And I went ahead and painted it and cut out pieces. Another piece of junk mail that I painted and punched pieces out of. And another envelope. And I just loved this blue texture on there. So I'm always going through the mail and making piles of like, okay, yes, I can recycle this. No, this I need to go hoard in the art studio. My boyfriend thinks I'm crazy, but hey, it works for me. I don't have an example of newspapers, but I love the texture of newspapers and I love text. So I think newspapers would be awesome to do with some acrylic inks and some watercolors and cut that all out. But kind of similarly is the book pages, which I absolutely love using book pages. I have some here to show you. Also well loved. So I go to the thrift store and I buy books that I don't mind cutting up and completely ruining. This one I just did a jelly print on. This one is some acrylic ink splattered around. Another jelly print. And just plain book pages from an encyclopedia that I will eventually use in something. And last but not least, for some of my favorite substrates to use in collage, is using old artwork. This is from one of my digital printables on Patreon. I will either scan old art and make copies of it, or use my digital printables. I never really use original art in my collage because I feel like I might ruin it and I would be very angry. So that's something I also like to do. Now for the fun part is the tools to make all your supplies on these substrates. So let's grab a couple of things that we can practice on or kind of look at. So I did grab some tissue paper. What else can we go on? Let's grab a piece of book paper. And I'm going to grab a piece of scrap paper. So I've got this scrap paper. That works. Okay. So the first one is stamps. You can go ahead and use stamps by other people. There's nothing wrong with that as long as you're not selling your work or you cover it up enough that it's not recognizable as somebody else's stamp. Another option that I absolutely love doing is carving my own stamps. So here I got like some little rainbow mountains, a chevron print. These are some raindrops or teardrops, lips, X's. But I absolutely love using stamps. Let's see if I can find an ink pad real quick. Let's use this. cute is that? And I usually will just keep printing it until the ink is all gone. Then you get varied colors and you clean your stamp at the same time. Win-win. Love it. Let's see, can we get another one? I don't know. Man, this stamp is dirty. Alright, that's clean enough. So, stamps. Number 1. Let's try and clear this as I go along. Alright, so paintbrushes and paintbrush cleaning with varied paints. So what I mean by that is, what I like to do a lot of times is with my paintbrush, say I'm painting something, and instead of directly putting my paintbrush into my water to clean it, I'll keep some of my paper next to me and I will just clean off all the excess paint before I put it in the water to clean. And at the end I have like some really cool backgrounds or something to build on later. Another thing that you can do is actually use your paintbrush to make shapes. So I did grab some watercolors. And my water is around here somewhere. Here we go. Let's get these activated. Feeling the pink today. So you can go ahead and just start making marks with your paintbrush. The shapes are endless. You can make little splatters. You can do so much with your paintbrush. And since I have a lot of paint on here still, I'm just gonna get the excess out and then I'll clean my brush. I feel like that only works, the cleaning off your brush, is if you have a nice big space where you're working and can have what you're working on and room for some spare paper. I know sometimes I struggle to not have enough working space, so I don't always have a piece of paper out handy that I can wipe my excess paint on. The next one is mark making tools. This is something that I have grown over the years. I have put together my own kit of mark making tools that I enjoy from random things around my house. A few examples are just an empty tape roll. You can take this and dip it in paint, put it on here. You'll then have circles. Let's actually do it. How about that? Use some of this teal paint, this fluid paint. Doesn't want to open. All right. Oh, that's too much. Oh well. So I'm just going to there's a lot of paint on there. Start making different marks with my tool. A few other examples that I have is this was just some packaging. I really like that it had these little ribs in it. I like to use this on the jelly print. I don't really know what it would look like if we painted it, maybe. Let's see. I'm going to kind of do it lightly so it'll transfer. I think it works better on the jelly print. Let's see. Oh, there we go. That looks kind of cool. Also, again, I'm going to clean my brush off. Another thing I like is a skewer stick. I really like to use this with more liquid paints. So with some golden, well, any type of fluid paint and acrylic inks, I really like to use the skewer with. So you just put your ink on and then move it around with your skewer. And I really like this technique if you use multiple colors at a time that are, you know, analogous to each other, and kind of move them around and blend them together. I think that looks really nice. Another one of my favorite mark making tools is bubble wrap. I especially love this on the jelly print. I don't think I've ever used it where I just paint on it until today, because we're going to do that. Let's see. Use our teal paint we have here. Let's see what would happen. And I feel like a lot of creating collage fodder can be just little happy experiments that you do. Let's see, let's do it over here. Oh, that's kind of cool. I like that. So just look around your house. When I first started collecting mark making tools, I just grabbed a basket and went around my house looking at all kinds of caps and plastic forks and just about anything that had a texture or a shape that I could use in my mark making. All right, what do we have next? Stencils. I do have some handmade stencils here. I just go to like Joann Fabrics or Hobby Lobby or somewhere. They have this stencil plastic that you can buy, and you draw on it with a Sharpie and then very carefully cut it out with an X-Acto knife. As you can see, these are well loved. And we'll go right on top of this. Let me see if I can find... Normally I use makeup sponges for this, but I don't have one handy. So I'm just going to use an actual stencil sponge or brush. And since this is teal underneath, and maybe I want to use it again, like for real in the future, I'm going to use pink on the stencil. So I don't know if you can notice, I have rearranged the studio a little bit, rearranged the cameras. I have big plans for some vlogs and different shots, and having the camera higher up so you can see more of what's going on, because that was something I personally didn't like when I was re-watching my videos. So I hope that that's noticeable in these next upcoming videos. So maybe this acrylic ink is not the best to use for stencils, or I had too much on there, because that's better. I had way too much on there. And once you get started, you'll start getting on a little creative frenzy, and you don't want to stop. So I really like stencils. And I love making my own stencils, or seeing designs on like Pinterest or mosaic tiles, and I'm like, ooh, that would be a really pretty stencil. So that's something I like to do. All right, what do we have next? Ink droppers. So that would be any kind of paint that has an ink dropper on it, like this. If your paint doesn't have one, like say I wanted to use this fluid, you can buy an additional little ink bottle to put it on there. I think I have one. Here we go. These. You can buy these at your craft store and fill them up with fluid paints to kind of use them like an alcohol ink. Not alcohol ink. What am I saying? Acrylic ink. So what I like to do is I like to draw with them. Just make little shapes. Or you can make lines, dots. So that's something that I like to do with ink droppers. I feel like I need to scoot this all over so I don't have to keep lifting this paper. There we go, perfect. Alright, next one is markers. You can use any kind of marker, washable, alcohol, permanent, whatever you have. This doesn't have to be anything fancy. I just grabbed these two water-based Tombow markers. And again, it's very similar to like what we were doing here with the paintbrush. Just start making marks. Any kind of marks you want. I like using markers because there's such a variety of colors. And they're very easy to get your hands on. So markers is a good one. Then I have pens. This is the same kind of with the markers. Any kind of pen. Permanent pen, water-based pen, anything. Here I have some Pilot G2 pens. And then I also have some gel pens. You can use a plain old ballpoint pen. It doesn't matter. Anything you want when it comes to pens. So let's see. I'm actually really loving all of these marks and how it's turning out. I am pleasantly surprised, you guys. Let's see. Let's do some little circles. And then I've got a purple gel pen. These are the Jelly Roll 08s. Let's see. Maybe I want to circle some of these little bubbles from the bubble wrap. And what do I want to do here? Let's do little dots. I think that paint's a little wet still. There we go. So that is pens. Then we have colored pencils. Again, these are easily accessible. It doesn't have to be any fancy brand name. It could be just basic Crayola. Told you I'm tired. I need coffee. But I don't want to drink coffee this late because I have to work in the morning. So that would be a disaster. But it could be Crayola. It could be Rose Art. It could be any kind of color pencil. It doesn't have to be anything fancy or expensive. These ones are Prismacolors. Again, just start making marks. My lead is loose in this one, making it kind of hard to and then we have crayons. So I have a couple different kind of crayons that I wanted to show, if I can get it out. So I have a white crayon, a clear crayon, and this is a water-soluble crayon. You can use any colored crayons. I don't have colored crayons, so I grabbed show you what the white will do. It works very similar to the clear crayon. You can find these in your craft store or around Easter time when you get the egg dyeing kits. These are in there also. So if you ever have those left over from dyeing eggs around Easter, hang on to them because they create really cool textures in collage fodder. So let's actually start a new page. So we filled that one up pretty good. Alright, so we'll use the white crayon. Just start making whatever marks you want. I would recommend the white crayon and the clear crayon with watercolor paint. I don't think you'll get the same effect with any other kind of paint. Let me get a brush here, and then we will get our watercolor. I think it's too thick. And you'll see where we put the white crayon. It will start to kind of remove itself from the wax in that area. Same with the clear crayon. And then with the Neo colors, if you're not familiar with them, you can use it just like a regular crayon, or you can go like that, grab some water on your brush, and these are water soluble. So you can go like that. You can take color right off of the crayon. You can flick it on there, which I did not intend to do, but that's really cool. And you can use it like paint. These are great for traveling. I like to keep these in my bag when I'm doing travel journaling and that sort of a thing. The next one, where can I stick this? Let's see. Okay. There we go, is oil pastels. Again, they don't have to be anything expensive. Here I have student grade from Hobby Lobby brand of oil pastels. Let's use this teal. Just to make marks. Just know that they do smudge if you're going to use them. They can smudge if you're not going to cover them with, say, like an acrylic paint. But I am going to leave these out because I'm going to show you something cool eventually with these. And when I went to London last year, I found neon oil pastels, which I was so excited to find because, as you can tell, I love bright colors. And these are the Daler-Rowney brand. Love those. And then Posca pens, which is what I use on here to make all of these marks. They come in a huge variety of colors. This is the pastel box. I bought these off of Jet Pens, but you can get them at Joann's, Michael's, Amazon, and they are filled with acrylic paint. Kind of have to get them started. That's how those work. These are really nice for, especially the white and the black, if you're doing characters and you're using acrylic paint, to use those to like touch up the eyes or anything like that, or around the edges of paintings. If you have a white border, sometimes I'll use the white pen to clean that up. And then paint etching. So this isn't technically a tool, it's kind of a technique, but I do use a knitting needle for this. You could probably use the back of a paintbrush or a skewer, anything that's small with like a rounded tip. I wouldn't use like a pencil or a pen because it's going to give you an effect that maybe you don't want. I have this sitting here. This is a coffee stopper from Starbucks. You could probably use this too. Like, the possibilities are endless of what you could do. I do have an example of what etching looks like. So you can see that I've etched here into the paint. So what you will do is, here's some more examples, and you'll see the colors underneath, and more on here. So you can either use oil pastels or wax crayons. And let's use this teal again. So you're going to put a nice layer of your crayon or your oil pastel, and then you're going to take an acrylic paint and you're going to paint over the top. I learned this in a class with Ray Missigman. She is amazing. I'm making this kind of thick, so it might take a while to dry, but that's okay. I probably should use a different color, but whichever. Then you will take your tool that you've decided to use for etching. I'm going to use my knitting needle. And then wherever you had that crayon or oil pastel underneath, just start drawing into it. And periodically you will have to clean the tip of your etching tool because it will gunk up with paint and oil pastel or crayon. And then when that dries, you can just use that for collage. And I think it's really cool how you have that two-toned without, you know, using paint and then say like a teal gel pen. It's just a cool little texture technique, and then when it's all done, you kind of feel some texture on there, almost like a braille, which I also like. So yeah, I hope that this was helpful for you. I hope it sparked a lot of ideas on how to start making pieces for collage cards or any type of art. I don't just use collage for these collage cards. I also use them in other projects. Right now I'm currently working on a canvas project that is incorporating collage. I have recently started an underwater series that has collage. Here's an example of one. Like even my characters are on a different piece of paper that I've drawn out and colored and cut them out and collaged them on. So the possibilities are endless for collage. I absolutely love it. So I hope you found this helpful, and I am planning to do videos every 2 weeks now. That seems to be more manageable with all the aspects of life these days. So until next time, I hope you have a great, beautiful day. And please like and subscribe, and I will see you guys again soon. Bye!